let's write some code with strings. So I've just written a simple variable here, which is hello. And I've used double quotes here. I could also use, for example, single quotes here, but it doesn't matter. It's the same for Python. And now let's see what we can do. For example, we can just print out the value of s. So s is a variable, and it holds a value of this string. So how variables work is covered in another video, but basically we can say that s points to a hello in current example. If I run it, I can see the hello here. And let's see what we can do with strings. So for example, we can add different strings together. So for example, I can say that s is hello and plus world. So I can get hello world. And now if I print it out, I can get hello world. What happens here is that I overwrite this s several times. So here is one value, then I just overwrite it with the same value, and here I also overwrite it. Then we can use multiplication to repeat a string. So for example, I can say hello, and let's have it, let's multiply it with 10. Let's add a space here also, because without space there would just be hellos without any space between them. And now I can have hello, hello, and 10 times hello. But now we can use different methods of string. But yeah, before that I can also see that I can get the length of string using function called len. So len, and inside the parentheses I just add the variable, and it gives me the length of the string, and it's printed out. So here I can see that this hello repeated 10 times, the length of the string is 60. But let's use a smaller string here, hello. Now what we can do, we can use different methods of this object, and we can use it so that I will just write variable and write dot, and after the dot I can call different methods what the string can do. So for example, I can use upper. What happens is that all the symbols inside the string, or basically all the letters inside the string, they are turned into uppercase. And as was pointed out, the string itself is immutable. I cannot change the value of the s using those methods. So for example, if I write s here after doing s upper, the s remains the same. For example, running this code, I can see that the s upper creates a new string where every symbol or every letter is uppercase, and the s itself remains the same. So basically, using different operations which are called so that they kind of should change the name, they actually don't, or change the string, they actually don't. They just create a new string, which is whether uppercase, lowercase, something is replaced, and so on. So another example would be, let's replace every L with M, for example. And also, if I print it out, I get this hemmo, but the original string still remains the hello. So all the methods the string has, they don't change the actual value or the original value of the string. What happens is they basically, in memory, in computer memory, they kind of take the new space or new space in memory, and they write the new string there. So for example, this upper, what happens is it creates a new string somewhere in memory, and inside this string everything is uppercase. And this also creates a new string somewhere in memory, but the original string remains the same. Okay, let's do some slicing. So as was pointed out, if I have a string, I will just copy it here also, then it's easier. I can point out the indices of this string. And every index points to one certain position of the string. So if I would like to get the first symbol of the string, I can write using braces, so and point the index or the position of the element I want. And elements or the index, the first index of the string is 0. So basically you don't start from 1, but you start from 0. The same applies for different data structures. So we always start with 0. And because of that, the last element is not 5 in our case, although the length of our string is 5, the last element is also always length minus 1. But we can use, for example, to get the last element of the string, I could write so. I take the length of the string and take 1 off from it. But Python actually allows us to use negative indices. So in this case, I can use -1 to indicate the last element of the string. So basically, to have the negative indices here, I will have to write from backwards. It's -5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So basically, yeah, this is every number should have minus before it, but it takes too much space. So everything in this line should be negative. So basically, yeah, I can get the last element instead of calculating the length, the position using length. I can just use -1. Besides just getting one element of the string, we can use slicing. Slicing is something where we have start position and end position, and everything between this is taken. So for example, to get the first 3 elements, I can write so 0 to 3. The first index, the starting index is included, the end index is not included. So everything up to 3, but not including the 3 itself. So basically it's taking 0, 1, and 2. With slicing, we can also use negative indices. So for example, I can write take 2 last elements, and we can leave out the end index if we are happy with the fact that it takes everything up to and including the last element. So the default value of this end index is length of the string. So basically it's same as to write 5 here, but we can just leave it out. The same goes with the starting index. The default value is 0, so to take 3 first elements, we can just write so. Basically, what we can do, we can also write so. So basically, it's a copy of the string. So if I run it, then I can see that this last one is just a low. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, but in some cases it might be useful. Besides taking sub string from index to index, we can use different steps. And by default, the step is 1, which means that we just take every element in the consecutive elements. But we can use something like that. So let's take everything from start to end, and let's have the step 2. So what happens is that instead of taking every element, we take every second element. Now I get H, L, and O. So it's basically taking 0, 2, and 4 indices. For example, the step can also be negative. In case of negative step, what happens is that the start index by default is the end of the string, and the end index is the start of the string. So here it's just reversing the string, which is kind of convenient way to reverse the string instead of having some loop which kind of takes the last element and puts it into the first place and so on. So the easiest way to reverse the string is to use slicing with -1 step. But if we would want to take, for example, the elements from back to forth using a negative step, then we have to take into account that the start index should be higher than the end index. So for example, if I would like to take every second element, and I would like to start not from the last element, but the second from last, so then I can use -2. It doesn't matter whether I use -2 or I use 3. It basically is the same. So -2 up to the end and -2, for example. Then I would get L and E. So L is this one here and E is this one here. So it's just you have to take into account that the start and end is not always in that order, so that the start is lower than the end. If the step is negative, then the start is higher than the end. And some other operations you can do with string is that you can count, for example, different elements. So easy way to count how many L's we have this string. Then we can find out where in the string is, for example, certain substring. So for example, let's find LO, and it returns the index. So the LO starts at the position 3. So this is this one here, and as you can see, the index here is 3. If we would like to search for something that doesn't exist, high, for example, then this gives us an error. So you have to be aware that. So before you can kind of start looking for it, you have to know whether the string contains it or not. To do that, we can, for example, use something like if high in S. So basically, just conditional whether this string is contained inside this string. So basically, it's just like writing English. So if high is in S, then we can print out the position. In this case, we don't get the error because this sentence is false and this line of code is not executed at all. So what we could do, we could write whether high in S, and this should give us whether true or false. In our case, it's false because high is not inside S.